I want to talk about affirmative action today, but I'm going to talk about it in a kind of an indirect, convoluted way. And I think, I'm looking forward to the class. And so to be really clear, hey, Joy, can you put me on green really fast? So look, I got to talk to the people on the screen. A lot of people watch the class from overseas, and so I'm going to explain, if you're watching and you don't know what affirmative action is, I don't either, but I'll figure it out by the end of the class. And it's this unique way of talking about giving certain opportunities to groups of people who have historically been discriminated against. And so I'll talk about what that is, but it's a way in the United States to try to balance out discrimination with our idea of a work ethic. And the work ethic being that in the U.S., we live by this philosophy that if you work really hard, you can do well for yourself and you can get ahead. And so because that's not always been the case, because we have had discrimination, including institutionalized discrimination, obstacles get in the way of people moving ahead. And so we try to rectify certain wrongs, and one way to do that is through programs that we label affirmative action. Okay? And we will begin. Bro. PC, right? Mac. That's the PC. You think I'd figure it out by now. Okay. So, this was the lead story in Penn State Newswire today, that the Blue Band director, this Greg Drain, has received a gift from some former Blue Band members to diversify the Blue Band. And the gift would be an example of some kind of affirmative action, because the gift is given to certain people on the basis of certain characteristics in order to open some kind of opportunity or to encourage them to do something. In this case, try out for the Blue Band or join the Blue Band. So it is not to the whole world. It's targeted to particular people to say, hey, we need more of X demographic or Y demographic, or we'd like more in the Blue Band. And so therefore, we're going to set aside these resources to make it happen. It's probably not a lot of resources. Don't worry. We're not talking about like full scholarships and that sort of thing. But we're talking about just maybe the tiny little piece that would make it more likely that somebody would join the Blue Band. Because how many of you are in the Blue Band? It's a lot of work, right? What is it? During football season, it's like 15 or 20 hours a week probably, right? That's a lot of work. So maybe a lot of people who aren't economically stable or are paying for their own college, maybe they got to get jobs, and even though you might be a really talented trumpet player or something, but you can't join the Blue Band, right? Because you got to work. Okay, so it doesn't mean that there is discrimination. So this saying, hey, we want a more diverse band, it does not mean that there is discrimination against certain people in the Blue Band. That is not what that means at all. It doesn't mean that people who are from underrepresented groups, because that's what we're talking about. More diverse equals underrepresented. These are these kind of words that we use in the U.S. now. And so it doesn't mean that underrepresented people are being shunned by members of the Blue Band, or are, the environment is so hostile that underrepresented groups are really uninterested in joining. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that for whatever reason, when you look at the Blue Band, it's really white. It's blue and white and white. And so somebody has come along, former people in the Blue Band, said, hey, we're going to put some money toward this because we just think there are probably some ways to diversify, and this could be a really good thing for everybody. It's like, for example, one of the things that makes this class, I think, really interesting is there's so many people from really all over the world and so many different demographics that we have an opportunity to hear from and talk to lots of different people with many different perspectives. And so like, well, that's kind of cool in all areas of life, right? Because we're increasingly living in a very diversified, multicultural world. So like, why wouldn't we want that everywhere? And in fact, we do. And Penn State is becoming more and more diverse because the population of the U.S. is more and more diverse. Okay? So let me show you this. I want to come back to this. And this idea, again, as I mentioned the other day, I'll do this really fast. Causality is divided fundamentally into two parts. Either causality that's a result of the human causality and human behavior and thinking, a result of human beings making choices about how they want to behave and how they want to think, and our behavior and our thinking being shaped by factors and forces outside of our control. So the outside of our control would be the income of our parents, where we grew up, how we grew up. Maybe, you have two parents, or one parent who's disabled, or maybe, you were going to go to X school, and but in the end you couldn't go because your mother or your father got laid off right before you were set to go off to school. And that thing outside of your control shaped your behavior. It wasn't about whether you could go or wanted to go, but it's just like, I can't go and I won't go because I got to go to a less expensive school or whatever. And there's so many factors there. Being a man. If you watched the hearings the other day with this judge, and I'm just, God, there's ways in which for me, just being a man, like, well, no, hang on. The other night I was walking across campus, and I was kind of behind a little bit a young woman who was talking on her phone. And then at some point I passed her, and I realized she wasn't talking on her phone. She was just pretending as though she was talking on her phone. And so, as many of you women know, this is a coping mechanism. It's like a man's, someone's going to be less likely to attack you if they think that you're connected with somebody, right? So here's quite a coping mechanism. So I'm passing her, I'm realizing, hey, you're not even on your phone. And I didn't say anything about that, but there is causality. Fear, concern, the possibility of things. Hey, dude, hang on. Let me just ask a question. Are there any men in here that walk across campus at night and out of fear of being attacked or harassed or something, you pretend to talk on your phones? Anybody? And how many women have used that at some level as some kind of coping mechanism, right? Or some way as a defense. Okay, so there's causality outside of our control. So men, we don't even think about that. So down here could be, and then here's another response. Maybe you're a young woman and you have a father who does, or a mother who does martial arts. And your father or your mother said from a young age, I have a daughter, I'm teaching her martial arts. And so you never talk on your phone at night because they're like, I'll take care of myself, right? I dare someone to come to attack me, right? So maybe your father or your mother knowing martial arts really changes your behavior. Or down here, there are all sorts of decisions that we make. Like for me, I wake up every day and I make decisions about whether I'm going to go to work and what I'm going to do and how am I going to just go surf the web because I just don't want to do anything else, or am I going to work really hard? Like how all the things, all of my life, my entire life is about so many different decisions that I've made, even just to get right here. And then all the things that maybe didn't happen to me, that could have happened, that I didn't even know about, or all the benefits I get from having white skin or being a man that I don't know about, the jobs maybe I got this job because I'm a white man. In fact, part of my success in 119 is the fact that I'm a man. I can say really some crazy stuff and even radical stuff that if I was a woman, I would get challenged so much. If I were black or if I were brown or if I had an accent, imagine if I had a Middle Eastern accent and I said some of the things I say in here and the kinds of responses I would get from people. So there's something that I think is my choice. Like, yeah, I work really hard and I try hard to figure out how to be a good teacher and say the right things and make things interesting for students and all. But I'm like a straight white guy. And that helps. Imagine, dudes, how much would you question my authority if I was 3 foot 1 inches tall? How much would you question my authority, my friends? 3 foot 1 inches tall. So if you're in the back, you can't even see me over the heads of people right here. How much would you question my authority? So I think, hey, I'm making all these decisions to be a really good teacher and so on and so forth, but the fact that I'm 5'11" also has something to do with it. You get that. You see it, right? You see all these kinds of things? Okay, so here's the deal. Conservatives, people who have a more conservative bent, and I don't mean Republicans. I mean people who are authentically conservative in their orientation. They tend to emphasize decisions, freedom, and choice. They just lean, okay, so they're not down there. They lean this way. Conservatives who aren't thinking very much are way over here. But if you're a conservative, you're going to tend to be down here, meaning that, look, you're going to emphasize freedom. You're going to emphasize the fact that no matter what happens to you, you could always make a different decision. You always have something else you could do or might do, no matter what. So you get down, look, you can stay down, but at the very least, you might as well just start pulling yourself up because you really don't have any other choice. Liberals tend to lean down here, and liberals who are not very thoughtful are way down here, meaning that they would be people who see it's all about things that happen to us. It's all about factors and forces outside of our control, as though nobody has any choices at all. And so the liberal perspective, so liberals tend to lean here. Conservatives tend to lean here. Right? So a guy like a Donald Trump is really complex. Because a guy like Donald Trump, who is in large part, got started in this world with a lot of resources. And before the liberals would say, oh, well, that's the only reason he got where he is, because his father gave him, what was his loan, like millions of dollars when he graduated, $10 million or something when he graduated college? It's like, yeah, I got that when I graduated. That's why I'm here teaching at Penn State, because someone gave me $10 million when I graduated college. Okay, so the liberal perspective would be right there. It's like, oh, he's only there because of that. That's the only reason. And a more conservative perspective would say, oh yeah, okay, whatever, that's true. But look, man, he's also obviously a really smart guy. He even learned how to take businesses and drive them into the ground and run them bankrupt and make money off of them. It's like, damn, you could say, well, he's really stupid. Really? He made millions and millions and millions of dollars doing that. That's actually really smart. So, and that's not true of every business. I mean, his steaks, I had one of his steaks one time. They actually weren't very good, Trump steaks, but, whatever, right? Trump champagne. I think I had a bottle of Trump champagne. That was pretty nasty, too. But whatever, I'm used to nasty stuff because I'm cheap. So whatever, it was good enough for me. It was the best champagne I ever had, but whatever. So the liberals, so the conservatives would be down here saying like, yeah, like, hey, no, but he actually is making decisions. You're obviously not that stupid. He got himself elected president of the U.S., y'all. I can't do that. None of you could do that. And in fact, by the way, if I gave every one of you $10 million on the day of your graduation, or let's increase it because now things are different. Let's say it's $50 million. The chances of any of you becoming a multi-billionaire is probably pretty slim. Maybe one of you could. It takes a lot. Open and close businesses and stuff. Come on, man. I'm not talking about just invest in Amazon and you'll be a billion. No. Do it on your own. So so the conservatives tend to emphasize this. Liberals tend to emphasize this. The people in the middle, you really want to try to be in the middle because both are happening at the same time always. So you can't ever say it's only that or it's only that. The thoughtful wisdom perspective is somewhere in both. And when you hear people making arguments about these kinds of things, why someone's homeless or why this happens or why that happens, and they're really arguing, generally speaking, they've chosen one side or the other side. And so I want to try to get us in the middle. And this stuff really matters for race, okay? And that's what we're going to be talking about. So, yo, is that cool? You got that? You were with me on the Trump thing, right? It's like it takes a lot of intellect to
let your casinos all go bankrupt.
Yeah, to let your stuff go bankrupt and make money from it. How do you do that? You know what I mean? How do you lose all your money and yet make money? That's brilliant, actually. So I don't know. I wish I had a hundredth of his vision on how to do that. I could do all sorts of things. But I don't, and so here I am. But I guess he has a very big brain, right? So that's a little different. Dude, my Trump guy. Did you paint yourself the other day? You didn't paint yourself? Oh man, that's why we lost. You know what I mean? Did you think about that? It might be your fault. All right. So here's one of the problems. This is the kind of thing where liberals will pick out. You got liberals and conservatives. Hey, by the way, can I just ask a question? So I told you one of the most important pieces of liberal and conservative is this right here. There are many other parts of it, but this is one of the most important pieces. So I'd like you all to just on this issue alone. I'm assuming that nobody, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you, which way do you lean? And I'm not going to give you a third option. I'm in the middle all the time, because no one's in the middle all the time. I want to know which way you lean, okay? Do you lean toward the liberal side, meaning that when you think about inequality, when you think about these issues, you tend to focus on the structures that get in people's way of moving forward, and so on and so forth, right? Or the structures that enable people to move forward. Like you would say, oh yeah, Sam Richards, yeah, okay, sure, you can teach a big class on race because you're white. It really has an impact on that, for sure, no question about it. You would tend to look at that before you would, right? You tend to just always kind of start right there. You know what I mean? Are we good on that? Do you understand what I'm talking about? So I'm not talking about you're way down there or you're way down there. I'm just talking about, are you leaning this way most of the time, or are you leaning this way most of the time? More conservative. Again, that's not Republican, and this is not Democrat. That has nothing to do with being liberal or conservative. That is one single political party called the Demopublicans. We sometimes call them the Republicrats. It's a party of the plutocracy, and that's what it is. Hang out. Dude, question, man. Are you with me? Demopublicans, Republicrats. You got it? It's one party, man. Come on, please. And they don't represent you. They don't represent you at all. They don't care about, you they might care about, okay. Because you said you came for money, right? You're rich. Okay, well, maybe not.
I mean, it's just a quick question. It's just you're asking us to expose yourself and tell you whether or not we're liberal or conservative.
No, I'm saying which way do you generally lean when you make arguments?
But that depends on what kind of thing you're asking for, right? Economic policy or
so we're going to talk about causality of socioeconomic inequality. Where do you tend to lean, right? Is it you tend to focus on when you start an argument, is it going to likely be the structures of inequality? Yeah, but that person's rich and their parents are rich and they have money and so therefore da. Or do you focus on this way? It's no, that person worked really hard and they did this and they did that and they made a great decision and oh my God, that was really amazing and that kind of stuff, right? So it's just leans. Okay, so you ready, y'all? Good. Thanks for asking that, by the way. Okay, here we go. The flag, my man. You got to raise your hand. Full attention. You got to... Yeah, hang on. Full attention. You have to raise your hand for one or the other. I'm not saying what you are, because none of you are right in the middle. I lean this way, by the way, just so you know. Like I'm trained to lean this way, but I generally lean this way. Meaning that I'm always like picking out the ways in which... No, hang on. Wait, no, hang on. No, I lean this way. I'm always picking out the ways in which me or somebody else could have like acted differently or thought differently or whatever, the degree to which I'm responsible for stuff or other people are responsible for stuff. I'm trained for this. I'm trained to pick out all the structures of inequality that get in people's way and that help people and so on and so forth. That's what sociology does. I'm trained for this, but I've retrained myself to lean more this way, and that helps me stay more balanced. Ready? How many of you lean more toward a conservative explanation for causality? Raise your hands. And how many lean more toward a liberal explanation of causality? Okay. All right, cool. It's probably like 60-40. Again, you should know, I'm trained this way, but I have retrained myself down here so that I could stay really in the middle. Because I want to be in the middle. That's where the intellect side, and trust me, I need as much intellect as I can muster up. Okay, so here's the deal. Look at this. Oh, wait, got to go back. So I showed you this slide the other day. This is men in blue and women in red. And if you are from the richest, the wealthiest 10% of income earners in the United States, if that's your parents, the wealthiest 10%, then here's what your income's likely to be, projected to be. And if you're from the poorest 10%, that's what your income's more likely to be. And if you're from right in the middle, that's what it's likely to be. So in other words, this is the kind of thing that people at this end will point out. Yeah. It's both parents. It's the average of both parents, okay? So what people down here will see that, and they'll say, wait a minute, that's a real clear indication that our parents' income shapes what we are able to do and likely to do. Just like we saw it up here when I brought 5 people up, and then 5 people up. It's like you really see, it's so much about, you weren't here that day, right? You were here? Oh yeah, all right. Dude, so if you see this, you're going to tend to be down here and start talking about, wait a minute, man, this is just basic inequality, man. What are you telling me that these people down here, they just happen to have wealthy parents? So they just happen to, so this is what liberals will say to more conservatives. Say, so they just happen to all be people who decided to work really extra hard so that they would do something to make more money and so on and so forth. And these people down here at the lower end, they just decided, these folks down here, well, our parents don't really make a lot of money, so, my parents didn't make much money. So what I did was I just decided I wasn't going to work very hard, and I didn't need to make a lot of money and all that kind of stuff, right? No. And so this becomes it's a very difficult thing for people. You gotta manage that somehow, okay? Yes.
It seems that women make more on that. Is there a
women are
reason
projected to
behind
make more? Yep.
it? Why?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't study gender like that, but I will say black women, not only are women projected more, but black women are projected to increase earnings faster than other women. Black women, by the way. Just want to point that out to you. Right? So, that's one of the big projections. And I want to dig into it and figure out why that is, but I just haven't had time because I'm busy trying to figure out if I want to paint my body like that dude, Donald Trump, at the next football game. All right, man. So here, look at this. Now, liberals and conservatives. Wait, I want to go back. This is going. Hang on. I want to give you something here. If you wanna, God, I don't know how I want to say this. I don't want to sound like a arrogant jerk. Oh, okay, I'll say it this way. I'm amused sometimes at how divided Americans we here in the United States that we think that we are. I'm amused and chagrined. There's a big word. Amused and chagrined at how divided we think that we are, when in fact we're really not. The people basically have very similar ideas about these matters. So take a look at this. Ideal rates, I'm going to have to, hold on. So what they did, these folks, is they said, look, in an ideal society, here, dude, can you stand up real fast? What's your name?
Phoebe.
Phoebe?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So when Phoebe is born, in an ideal world, what are the what if you had to put likelihood on Phoebe ending up in the poorest 20%, the next highest 20%, the middle 20%, the second highest 20%, or the highest 20%, she's going to end up in one of those places on average. Forget about how hard she works. Forget about all of that. You got to decide on that. Her chances of being rich or being poor or being somewhere in the middle. And not only for Phoebe, but for everybody in society. What's the ideal society you want to live in? So, for example, do you want it, and it can't be everyone's rich. Because everyone's not going to be rich. Because if everyone's rich, you would be, okay, you get it, right? You see it? Okay, thanks. Sometimes you just need someone to stand here. Okay, look, if you said, oh, I want everyone to be the same, well, then you're a communist. And no one wants everyone to be the same. You got to break it up. So you could say, well, 20-20-20, I think that people who are poor, just to make things fair, 40% of people who are poor should be able to end up rich. And then the same goes, well, how many people should end up poor? So we have a whole classroom here. And you all just, you are the master God. You are the master of everything that's happening in this world. And you get to make a decision about what percentage of people are going to end up where. What's the kind of world you want to live in? It could be, well, you know what? 2% of society ends up rich and 98% ends up poor. Because, really, it's just better if everybody ends up rich or poor. Or 5% rich, 5% poor, and everybody else just in between. You could do it any way you want, okay? So they asked liberals and they asked conservatives. And here's what folks said. So mobility from the bottom. And liberals said, in an ideal world, if we take the bottom people in society, the poorest 20%, and I was deciding where they were going to end up on the economic spectrum, okay? That's my job. You got that. You understand? Are we there? You got it? Phoebe? Bro, you got it. Okay? This is what liberals say. Well, 14% of them should end up rich. 17% should end up here. 28% here, here, here. Conservatives said basically the same thing. Basically said the same thing, conservatives and liberals. Meaning that they're going to socially engineer a society in exactly the same way. Here's the reality. The 20% of the poorest Americans, 43% are going to end up right here. This is very recent, by the way. So this is where it's going to be right now. 43% are still going to end up poor. And because it's not 100%. Why? Because some poor people rise up. 27% get to the next quintile right in here, right? 17% there. 4% actually get really wealthy. So there is upward mobility. It's not as much as we would like to think. See, like people down here will say, oh, it should be higher. But if you're down here and you're more conservative, you're going to say, well, no, but that kind of makes sense. Okay, you got it? You see that? So now let's flip it around. This is actually really cool, by the way. Liberals and conservatives would socially engineer the world the same way. If you gave all like the people that are conservative and support like, whatever, all the conservative stuff, and you take all the liberals and you put them together in a room and you say, create the good society in terms of equality, they're going to create the same society. So what are we arguing about? Jesus. All right, here's downward mobility. So now you get the richest 20%. How many of them should stay rich? And how many of them should be poor in an ideal world? If life was fair across the board, what would it look like? So liberals say, well, 43% would still stay rich. It wouldn't be all 100%, because this could be 100 right here. They'd all be rich. Because you could say, well, whatever, if you're born rich, you should just stay rich. And this one back here would be, if you're born poor, then this should be 100%. Everybody should just be poor. You get that, right? Do you all understand what this is? This is amazing. Okay, so here, conservatives, liberals actually argue that a greater number of rich people in their ideal world would stay rich. That means that a greater number of rich Americans would pass their wealth down to their kids so that a greater number of them would actually stay rich than conservatives. Look at that. So this is how they would break it out. It's like, yeah, all right. And then we need some rich people to be poor because that would just be an ideal world. And here's what it is, actually. Take a look at that. So the very top, actually 8% of the richest 20% of Americans right now will end up poor. 8%. So it does flip-flop. It's not if you're born rich, you will stay rich. That's not true. If you're born poor, you will stay poor. That's not true. Some rich people are going to stay rich and do really well, and most of the people that drop are not the wealthiest of the wealth. It's not like Bill Gates' kids are never going to end up down here. This is the top 20%. So many of you are in the top 20%. I'm in the top 20% probably in terms of, just it doesn't take a lot to be in the top. The difference is the top 1% is so extreme than like the 81st%. You know what I mean? So most of your families are probably close to being in the top 20%. I would say most of the families in here. And so some of you are going to end up down here. You get that, right? So this is what we're arguing about. Dudes. Fuck. Sometimes I feel like if we could just if I could just bring you one by one to my office at home, and we could just, just do that, or I don't know, whatever. We could just have a glass of wine or just talk, and I could show you why this is so awesome, and you could, oh God, but I can't. Okay, so here's the problem. In the world of race, well, we wouldn't do that because I don't do that anyway, because it's illegal, so, whatever. Yeah. Okay, so look. This is from the U.S. Federal Reserve. Oh, dog. All right. See, that's all you need to do. You just put a dog on the screen, and and everyone's going like, "Oh my God, where's the dog?" Median family wealth. So here's the problem, y'all in a race class. This is what we got to deal with here. I'm going to come back to it. I went to it the other day. I'm coming back to it now. How do you deal with this? When we talk about white privilege, we talk about white wealth, we talk about white people and white advantage and white this and white that. This is what we're dealing with here. So we're looking at all the stuff I just showed you. There's some mobility. There's not a lot of mobility, but there's some. And we're, but now we got to deal with this. Because how do you manage that? Because we know we have this starting point thing. Remember what I said the other day? We did the starting point. We have people down here and we got people up here. The people down here can start moving up the stairs because, they're going, right? Because the economy's growing and everything's happening and so on and so forth, right? But the people up here are also moving up the stairs. And so it's just really hard to catch up. So black people can increase, Hispanics can increase their family wealth. This is median. That means median means half of all families are above that and half are below that in terms of their wealth. That means all of their possessions minus in their savings minus their debt. So look at the extreme difference here. So what we can say is, dude, they can grow their wealth, but when they grow their wealth, these folks are going to grow their wealth. And once again, this is family wealth. So one of the reasons Asians is so high, because Asians have a disproportionate number of, there are a couple reasons. One, more likely to have been recent immigrants who come as professionals or to get professional degrees and stay here as professionals, because India's a really big place. China's a really big place. Africa is a massive continent. And the people that tend to come to the United States are people that tend to come with resources. Because nobody really wants poor people. There's not a country in the world that wants more poor people. Poor people mean that you got to deal with all the things that poor people need. And so you want wealthy people and you want people with resources. And so when Indians are coming, Bangladeshis are coming, Pakistanis are coming, Taiwanese, Chinese, wherever it is, Nigerians, Ghanaians, wherever, they're going to, Egyptians, because Egyptians tend to be the highest earning Americans anyway, of any groups. Any Egyptians here? Dude, am I right on that? Yeah, y'all dude, Egyptians, they got it down. Marry into an Egyptian are you Egyptian, by the way? Dude, marry into an Egyptian family, man. Gay or straight? Well, if you're gay, you probably won't, but Egyptians aren't necessarily cool with that shit, but bro, we'll bring them around though, bro. We'll bring them around. You know what I mean? Well, when we have LGBT year, you know what I mean? It's gay pride year. The Egyptians will just have to come on board. But anyway, gay or straight, that's where you want to marry into. But nonetheless, countries want wealthier people and professional people. So what we see here with Asians is it tends to be wealthier people who have come into the United States. It's not like suddenly they come here and they're like, oh my God, they're so smart and brilliant, even though some, Chinese folks have inventions and stuff, like your classmate's father, but Tim's father, right? But nonetheless, so we see that. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? Y'all? Here, follow this. This is actually really cool. Wait, follow this. This is the argument. Race inequality. How do you deal with that? You got these two things here. You lean this way, you lean this way. All you can do is tell people, hey man, black people, Hispanics, I don't even put Native Americans up here. Native Americans would be over here, down about half of this, living on reservations. So all you can say is, hey, well, I don't know what to do. Just work harder, or just work hard. Just pull yourself up by your bootstraps as hard as you can. I don't know, that's the idea down here. You know what I mean? There's nothing more you can say. But down here, they would say, no, there actually is more you can say. You got to find the obstacles that lead people here from getting here. You got to find the ways in which people here created obstacles for people down here to move forward and move ahead, which is why we're always talking about discrimination. Because there must be something that led folks down here to be down here. And of course, in the U.S., it doesn't take a rocket scientist to read just a little bit of history. I did the thing, for example, Black history. I did the piece, after, oh God. Dudes. I'm sorry I'm not more interactive today. I will be. I'm going to invite some people up in a hot minute, but dude.
Okay, class, this is the best part.
Dude. And say,
I really do have a big brain.
shit. Okay, hang on. Darn. Oh yeah, all right. So here's the deal. Can you take yourselves back? Dudes. See, can you take yourselves back to the thing I did up here when I did the race reversal piece? So now I'm going to talk to white people for a second. Wait, I'm going to talk to everybody. But if you take the race reversal piece, right? And imagine that you can't just recreate a starting line where everybody is equal. You can't do that. It doesn't happen. It would mean it's some distinct moment in time. We would have to take everybody's resources away from them. And we'd have to just line it up, give everyone an equal amount, and start over. And then see which racial and ethnic groups ended up on top. And what we would see is that it's not about race. It wouldn't be about race. It wouldn't be like white people would be on top, or black people, or brown people, or whatever. Egyptians maybe, but nobody else, right? It wouldn't be that. It would just be a cacophony of random people who were like driven to get to the top, and other people who wanted to hang out and do bong hits all day or whatever they wanted to do. But the problem is you can't do that. And so therefore you have to take into account historical patterns of obstacles that got in people's way. Like when I did that race piece and I talked about, oh God, I forgot. I can't. I can't even say this. It just sounds, yeah, whatever. Okay. I'll come back to it. Dude, it wasn't the best part, by the way, so. All right, so here's affirmative action. So now you got this. Okay, you got this? You know that people down here are not getting an equal shot as people up here. We saw it up here. The 5 men, they were all men whose parents are paying for their education. They're driving nice cars. Their parents have nice cars. They don't have to worry about anything. You know that there are, not only that, but they're going to get, their parents have contacts for better internships. They're more likely to have better contacts for jobs when they graduate. They're going to be connected in different ways than the poorest people in the class. Or forget about this class. How about people who are going to, like Millersville? What's like a school that's a state school that's a couple tiers down? They're just going to have it. And no one would argue that. So what do you do to break it up so that people who really can move and really work hard and really want to work hard can climb the ladder? Like, it's like, look, I'm not going to carry anybody up, but, if some slacker can just kind of cruise through life, and you all know them, you all know the people whose parents got a lot of money, and they're completely slackers, and they're just sort of rolling, cruising through Penn State, and they're going to be fine. They're not going to climb the corporate ladder because they won't. Trust me, if you're a slacker, you're not going to climb it very high, but you're just going to be fine. And we all know those people who came from very little, and man, they just work and work and work and work, and they're going to move forward, right? So, but those people still don't ever, what can, very often, what is possible for them doesn't match with where they end up, doesn't match with what is possible. And so then we come up with this stuff, these programs like affirmative action. And affirmative action is something like this. It's like, look, the blue band, or I don't know, come to Penn State. We're going to, on average, we'll give you an extra $3,000, or we'll take $3,000 off your tuition. Or we'll take $5,000 off, or we'll give you this, right? If you have a parent who, I don't know, is recently, who could be a million different things, right? We're going to just give you a little bit. We're going to make it so that, you don't have to work 2 jobs. Like then you can compete on a more even playing field, right? Or whatever it is. Or we're going to give like flexible standards of achievement. We're going to like make it so that, like, okay, I know, yeah, you didn't jump through the hoops that it looks like everybody else did, but you have all these other skills. And so like, we're going to let you jump, we're going to have you jump through this hoop over here, whatever it is, or any number of affirmative action programs. And by the way, does everyone know what I'm talking about with affirmative action? You got it, right? Affirmative action. These kinds of programs have mostly benefited women more than black and brown people, and mostly white women, which means that, straight white guys, like it means for all of us in here, like those of us who are white, our white mothers are more likely to have been beneficiaries of affirmative action than black and brown people. And so that means for white people in here, that means if you're sitting thinking like, well, I wish I had a program, or I wish somebody would come along and give me something. Well, it's more likely that they did, actually, and that your mother benefited, which meant your father benefited, or your mother, if your mother is lesbian and married and you have 2 mothers, and that you benefit. You got it, right? You see that? So, all right. So here's one, right there. What do? Down here. What do you think? These people score really low just because they were like me and they were out partying the night before they took the SAT? I didn't even know what the test was. Someone just said, hey, you got to take this test. And I found out about the day before. I showed up hungover. I didn't really know. I still scored in the 51st percentile. So even hungover, I was above average. So how is this fair? Tell me how that's fair. Just because you grew up in a wealthy family and all these things happen, and on average you're going to have a higher score, it's not fair. So what do you do? What do you do down here? These people that are busting their tails and they're just like not going to compete in the same way. So what? So what do? So affirmative action is a kind of program, these kinds of programs, they come along and they say, well, I don't know, why shouldn't you get some kind of a boost? If we don't give you some kind of a boost, if we only go on the basis of test scores, what does this tell us? What's it tell us? If we only do test scores, well, you only get into a school, the highest score is the one that should get into the school. Only the highest. And like, I didn't get into my top school. I was going to go in an Ivy League school, but I didn't get in. But, but I have a classmate who's black, or I have a classmate who's Mexican, or I have a classmate who's Vietnamese, got into that Ivy League school that I could have got into, and they had lower scores than I did. Okay, great. Let's just have a system in which it's only about test scores and nothing else. Not a single other thing. That's what we're going to see right there. Rich people, highest scores. And the next generation, rich people, higher scores. And the next generation, rich people, even higher scores. That's what we're going to see. And is that the kind of world you want to live in? For those of you who complain that you didn't get into your school because somebody else did, and everybody has a story, by the way. So, I never believe those stories. But whatever the case is, right? Dude, you got it? You understand what it is? So how do you remedy it? I'm not arguing for affirmative action. What I'm arguing for is like, how do you rectify this stuff? This is what we're fighting over all the time. You get it, right? Fuck. Oh my God. Here, take a look at that. And then you got the fading of memory. Oh, check this out. The year in which a child is born. So this isn't you all, right? The percent of children who will earn more than their parents by their year of birth. That's my year of birth. So I was born in 1960. It's like 64, 2 or 3% of us. You all, it's going down. The likelihood, the percentage of you that will earn more than your parents is less than 50%. Dudes. Do you fly fish, bro? How open are you all to any kind of affirmative action program if you think that you got a 50-50 chance of making more money than your parents? Probably not very open. Because you start to get nervous. You're like, ah, damn, man. Like, this is not good. Or this. Look at this. So, discrimination against white people has become as big of a problem as discrimination against black people and other racial and ethnic minorities. The percentage of white people who agree with this. 52% of all white people think that. Dudes, God, seriously. Divine, stand up for a second, man. Bro, can you stand up? Divine, right? Yeah. Dudes. What's your name, bro?
Jared.
What is it?
Jared. Like
Jeb?
Jared.
Jared. Dude, where are you from? You're from South Africa? Where are you from?
Outside Philly.
Outside Philly? All right. Listen, man. Isn't there someone in here from South Africa? Wait, I thought there was. All right. Anyway, listen, man. Look at these two guys. Discrimination. Look at him. Look at this guy. Discrimination against him is worse than discrimination against him. Right? Come on, seriously, man. Seriously. Okay, if you want to go through life, if you want to get a job, my friends, if you want to get a job, white people in particular, white people, if I could snap my fingers overnight when you are going out on the job market and you could be this guy or this guy, how many of you would say, oh no, I want to be this guy right here because he's got it better off than this guy? How many? Anybody? It's like, I'm like thinking that is probably not the problem. Or driving down the street, driving back home with the police or whatever the case is. I have no idea, right? 76% of Tea Party people, so these are all the people that really came out like this radical revolution against Obama because, he was a communist, right? 61% of Republicans, 58% of working class, 38% of Democrats, et cetera, right? So, thanks, gentlemen. So look, the idea, how many white people, if you're thinking this, are going to be really open to any kind of affirmative action in which we would say, you know what? Can we go back? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right there. Oh, we got to rectify this somehow. I'm not sure how to rectify it. We need some kinds of programs in place that would help equalize this a little bit. It's really hard because this is where we get to. With the insanity. Like, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. All you got to do is ask yourself, if I could snap my fingers, do I want to have dark skin or do I want to stay white? And I'm not talking because, I'm a jazz musician and I can hit the hip jazz scene a little. No, actually, you probably do better if you're white. There's nothing. And I'm not saying it's terrible to be black. There's not discrimination everywhere. It's everywhere. But it's not like all the time. So I don't live in that world. But here, let me think. Oh, here, take a look at this one, man. Dude, you'll appreciate this graph right here, man. The sons of black families from the top 1% had about the same chance of being incarcerated on any given day as the sons of white families earning $36,000. Here it is. Families, how much the white men make, families, and black men incarceration. So right there it is. That's it is. Just a little tiny bit over 2%. The same amount. And it's not because black men are more violent and black men are this and black. Come on, man. We're going to talk about some of that stuff. Please. Yeah, if you watch Cops. Unless you're watching Cops, I don't know, in the South where they're going in and out of white trailer parks or something, like in Florida. But here, how many want to be black? Really? So, and by the way, can I just say the following? Dude, God, I can. Shit. So I was looking at this research on black attitudes of black men, and one of the things is like the white people, the dominant group. One of the ways we justify being the dominant group is by ascribing negative characteristics to people who are below us. So one of the ways that I can justify being on top, if I'm on top, like let's imagine I'm on top, right? Is to imagine that, well, the people on the bottom somehow deserve to be there. And that somehow I deserve to be here. Because I don't know how else to make sense of that, right? Like the divine sort of nature of being a king. And, God ordained this, and God wanted this, and God this, and God that. So you come up with these stories. And one story that historically speaking, white people have come up with regarding black and brown people, in particular Latinos, in particular Mexicans and Central Americans, and black Americans, black people, is that people, A, didn't want to work hard, or B, didn't take responsibility for their actions. So they're always blaming it on somebody else, right? So like if I'm trying to climb the ladder of, hang on one sec. How many of you have friends who are always, they're F-ups? They're always effing up, and they're always blaming somebody else. How many of you have friends like that? Family members, right? You got a brother, it's just like, oh my God. Right? Jesus. They're always blaming somebody else. It's always somebody else's problem, and like, oh my God. And it's like, okay, always somebody else. So putting blame elsewhere. So really interesting research that jumped out to me. The one group, there are two groups in the United States who are less likely to blame other people for their problems than any other groups. Two groups in the U.S. Less likely to blame other people for their problems and rather blame themselves. If they screw up or when they screw up, it is their fault. First and foremost, okay? Two groups. Talk amongst yourself. See if you can figure out what the two groups are. Really fast. What do you think they are? Dude, what do you think they are? Oh, I did? Oh, I did? All right. You get it, right? Oh, wait, I said this before? He says I said it before. I never know. Did I talk about this before? Oh.
I remember you saying it was black.
Okay. All right, listen. So here's the deal. The answer is black men and then Middle Eastern men and women. But black men, number one. So the story we have is that like, oh man, black people, they're always blaming. Because what happens is, again, remember, down here, you're identifying the obstacles. Right? What are the obstacles, right? Oh, the obstacle of like, well, look, you got to look at discrimination, you got to look at this, and you got to look at that, because if you're experiencing it, right, it's like you're going to be picking that stuff out. So the fact that black and brown people, in particular, blacks and Latinos, are very often picking out the obstacles, then white people say like, oh my God, you're always just talking about that. But the fact is, no. Black and brown people are also talking about lots of other things, but it just so happens that they're also talking about this because the dominant group, in this case white people, are so unwilling to really look at it, except liberal white people, right? So you see, this is a problem. Dudes. Here, can you stand up real fast? Dude, no, hang on. Can every black man in the room stand up real fast? Every black man. Dude, cool fro, man. Dude, God. Okay, listen, y'all. Look around the room. Look around the room. Here's the thing. The story we have is that black people, in particular black men, because in particular black men are you should stand too, by the way. You might as well be black. That black men, no, you are, because you have a lot of black blood in you. So just look, that black men are unwilling to take responsibility for their actions and for their screw-ups. When they screw up, they're always pointing around at somebody else. But look, y'all, right? Black men are the first people to say, yeah, it's my fault, man. Divine. How much time were you in prison? Wait, hang on. How long?
4 straight, 2 and off and on.
Wait.
I
No,
did 4 straight.
4 straight?
In prison, and I did 2 off and on in juvie.
In juvie, and whose fault was it, man?
That was mine.
Yeah. Dude, you ask black men, it's their fault. Once in a while, you're going to get a black, especially, look, if you're white, you might play somebody and be like, oh yeah, no, it's the white system and so on. But listen, man. White people, the group of people most likely to blame other people for their problems, the group most likely to blame other people, wealthier white men. So isn't this really amazing that we create this system whereby like, wow, the whole world can like point at all these men and be like, oh yeah, well you're on the bottom, or you're not making it, or you're experiencing it, or you went to prison, whatever. Yes, because it's like, but you're blaming everybody else. So like, I don't have anything to do with this stuff, right? It's not my fault. It's not my problem. It's not about me. But in fact, the reality is, look around, man. Dude, it's people looking more like me that are finding reasons why things happen to me. Something happened to me. So I don't know, man. This is just a really powerful image. I just want you all to remember that. Remember this right here. And when you hear, you're watching the television or you're watching a talk show and you hear some black men talking about the system and the racist system and so on, that doesn't mean they're also not taking responsibility for stuff that happened to them, because there is a racist system out there. But it also means we're looking at something else. Dudes, thanks for standing. Yeah. All right, so, man. Okay, I have a really cool thing I would do, but I'm not going to. You know what I'm going to do? Dudes, I'm not gonna do that. Who has a question? Who has something that it's like a yes but thing because it's something that you're just stumbling over and you just want to not really challenge me on something, but it's something you just can't get past that you feel like I'm not accounting for and I should account for it. And maybe I just overlooked it because I'm talking too quickly or something. Who's got something they want to kick out there? We have 5 minutes. And we're going to just sit here with our teeth in our mouth if somebody doesn't come up with something. So get something. Who's got something? Dudes, who's got something? Because Divine's going to talk. We're going to talk about the criminal justice system, and I'm going to have you talk a little bit. Who's got a question? I have a question about the dude with the fro, actually, but I'm not going to ask that yet. Who's got a question? Who's got a comment? Dude, do you have a question? Really? Do you have one for her? No, somebody. Come on, man. Come on, dogs. Damn. All right, man. Coming at you. Wait, hey, Jeff. Wait, you have a question? Who has it? Right somewhere in here. But I got this brother over here, man.
So, what are the telltale signs, or rather, how do you identify when something is a product of individual choice and when something is the system?
Dude. Oh my God. You consult God. And for an atheist, that's really difficult. Seriously. You ask God. I mean, it's cosmic. I don't know. Yeah, honestly. Because everything you do is both. It's like, here's what it is. It's both. It's fused. It's always both. It's always choice and it's always other things. Every thought I have is shaped by my environment. And my environment shapes every thought I have. So it's like, it's cosmic. Mushrooms help too, but... Yes, go ahead.
So earlier...
Wait, can you stand, actually?
Oh.
It's a great question, bro. Yeah.
So earlier you had a graph that said, on average, women will make more money if their parents...
No, they're predicted to make more money. Yep.
Predicted to make more money. Doesn't that contradict the theory that women, on average, make less than men?
Yeah, no, listen. This is the complexity. Okay, so look. I'm not... Yeah, no, I got that. You can sit down. Here's the complexity of wages on women and men, okay? It is immensely complex. You could study this. If anyone wants to do a B-Phil on this, where you make your own major and you do nothing more than spend 4 years studying wage inequality and wage equality between men and women, you could spend 4 years and then you could get a PhD in it and you still win. It would still take you days and weeks and months to explain it. It's immensely complex. But yeah, women wages are increasing tremendously. And there's a lot of discrimination against women. But this idea that women make, what is it, like 67 cents on the dollar? What the fuck? What is that? No. Like, that's just one of these things that we put out there as this really simplistic number that when you start to unpack that number, it's just immensely too complex for that. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, that's cool. And that's a great question. Who else? We have 2.5 minutes. Who has another question? Come on. Dude, that's brilliant, by the way. Come on, who's got a... Okay, any question in the world you want to ask anybody in class? Dude, do you have a question? Seriously? No, wait, I got one. I got one for black. I want a black man to answer this question. What was it like standing up and hearing me say that about black men more likely to take responsibility for their F-ups than anybody else? I want a black man to respond to that. Somebody. What was it like? Just what is that? How is that for you? To hear that, to do that, to whatever. Did you stand up, bro? Come on, man. What was it like, dog? I'm not like... Go ahead and stand up, man.
Stand
Yeah, you got to stand up again.
What was the question again? One more time.
Dude, the question was, how come your hair isn't as cool as that brother's hair right there? The question is, what was it like when I said they had black men stand up and say what I said about black men being more likely to take responsibility for their screw-ups than any other demographic group?
It felt understanding. Like, it felt like you, like, kind of get it. Because, like, a lot of times we take responsibility and, like, we don't really, like, blame other people in a lot of situations because we learn, we're like conditioned to understand that.
Do you feel like people are looking at you as like you're blaming other people a lot?
Sometimes, some people, depending on situations, but like I get the coming home.
All right, dude, you killed it, man. James, all right, y'all. Have good groups this week. Thanks, dog.